computer. And we are recording. Well, hey, everybody, for the careers in photography class, photo 186, we have another guest speaker today. Some of you may know this guy over here. His name is Rob VanMarter. And Rob is one of the adjunct photography professors here at Mott. And those of you that maybe have had the Photoshop class 190 or something else may have had him as a professor. But Rob has a very interesting pathway in his career. So I thought it'd be fun to interview him for you guys. As a side note, Rob not only teaches at Mott, but he teaches at Washtenaw Community College, and he used to also teach at Lansing Community College. So Rob used to wear out tires on his car driving the triangle from Ann Arbor to Lansing over to Flint and back to Ann Arbor. You did that. You did that for a few years, working at all three places, didn't you?
Oh yeah, there was a time when I started at U of M in the morning, went to Washtenaw in the afternoon, and hurried up and drove to Flint for the evening class, all in one day.
All in one day.
All in one day, yeah.
Yeah. So Rob, what you know, let's kind of get to it a little bit. What do you have an early remembrance of holding a camera in your hand as a kid, or what was the spark that got you interested in the camera? Or have you always been a visual person, or you know, where did this come from? You know, elementary school, high school, you know, give us an insight as to how you got kind of hooked on the camera and photography.
Okay. Well, I had a big brother from the Big Brothers Association. I was about probably 12 years old. And lo and behold, his name was Joe Franz. He was a photographer. Okay. He used both black and white stuff, and he worked for a county thing and other stuff. But he took me down to Olympia to meet Gordie Howe, Alex Del Vecchio, Roger Crozier. And here I am at, 12, 11 years old on the ice with Gordie Howe. And I'm still taller than Roger Crozier is in his skates. He was a goalie. So yeah. I got picture stuff somewhere, but that's how I got started with that.
Keep going. I got to get some. I got a student at the door, so keep going.
And so that's how I got started with Joe, was the photographer. And he also taught me back then to shoot a panoramic, which was very similar as today. They had the measuring tools. We did panoramas and so on. But the camera that I had was just a little Kodak plastic camera with two buttons on here. I think one changed the aperture to either large or small aperture, and your shutter speed was a given. Just a little.
Yeah, they had like two discs. One would be like f5.6, and the other would be f16 or something like that.
Yeah, it would say cloudy or sunny. Yeah, cloudy or sunny. That was.
I remember those. Yeah.
Then after that, I got involved in it there. I grew up, graduated. It didn't take it up. I was in sports and other things in high school. But when I got out of high school, I went to a wedding and saw a guy taking pictures, and I thought, well, gee, eat, drink, dance, be merry, and get paid for it too. I go, who can argue with that? So I chased these people down until they hired me, and I soon found out there was none of that fun stuff. Weddings are one of the hardest things you can ever do. But this is a thing I used in college. It was my dad's camera. It's probably from the 40s. It's an Argus. Is that a
C3?
I believe it's a C3. Yeah.
Yeah, I had one just like that. Yep.
Just like this. Yeah, just like that. The old rangefinder. Look at the big old viewfinders. Look for your photography. There's no meters or anything. You do have an aperture that moves.
Yeah.
You do have a few little shutter speeds that move up there. And this is your rangefinder.
And that's your focus right there. Yeah.
Like that right there. So
I love the external gearing on that. That's really cool.
And that's what interested me. The technology to look at something like this and then put together in your mind what it does. It looks and it captures, brings it in, and it ends up back here in your film. That's impressive right there.
Okay.
And so that's kind of how I got started, and went to Oakland Community College.
Oh, you did? I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, over there on Orchard Lake Road and the expressway there.
Yeah.
The weird buildings, and we used to have to line up Saturday morning to compete to get in the dark room. And I always thought I was getting there first, like 7:30. The line was a mile long. I wouldn't get in till noon. Hence, you
Oh,
build your own dark room. And that was it. So once I built my own dark room, look out, that was about the end of it.
wow, that's really interesting. I remember they had advertised in the newspaper years ago when I lived in that area about photography at Oakland Community College.
Yeah,
That's really cool. So you went there. That's really cool.
that was neat there.
So after you got out of college there, did you kind of immediately start your own business, or did you work for somebody else, or
No,
did you pump gasoline or deliver pizzas or what?
well, I was counting all the jobs I had the other day, and it's well past 20 jobs. I used to wash airplanes, pick apples. You wouldn't believe what I did. So photography started looking pretty good, but I had a family. I had to work in a foundry every day, 6, 7 days a week sometimes. And so I had to do weddings, which you can do on the weekends. And if you want to do it that way, you can. So I used to have to leave work a little early, get cleaned up, do a wedding Friday night, go to work Saturday, do a wedding Saturday, and then you just recuperate Sunday and you begin your life all over again. Well, I
Yeah.
worked for someone else. I was downriver, I've been even into Ohio, I've been up north, but basically the Detroit, Ann Arbor area really branched out, Rochester, all over the place. And I did that for like 5 or 6 years, just bam, 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 making money. Because that's what you have to do. You just can't quit start. You have to be sure and you have to build your business. So after I did that, I had to,
That's interesting because that's what I mentioned in my talk, that I always had a side gig going on, that I had some regular money coming in. And then that afforded me usually the luxury of taking just about any photography job because I knew I had a certain amount of money guaranteed coming in with another job that I had going. So
absolutely. And so that's
interesting.
my advice. That's my advice. Take it a step at a time. All businesses are built. You just don't start one up and go. They're built. You
Right.
have to build. After that, when you get into business, I had to sign a contract to work exclusively for that company for 3 years. The reason is they trained me, and they're not going to train me to go out and shoot and compete with them. And
Okay.
so I did the same thing. I fulfilled that contract, and all businesses should have a temporary contract. After that's fulfilled, you negotiate. Do you like it here? Would you like to leave? What do you want to do? I said, I like you guys. I like to stay, but I also like to start doing stuff on my own. So when you start doing stuff on your own, I had to start slow, get a few, and we worked it out till eventually I'm doing more weddings now. And once I got started, I never even had to advertise. They just kept coming and coming and coming. And so that was pretty good. So I stayed busy. It was extra income in the house, but then I was still hungry. And that's one of the things is this hunger. When you're a photographer, you kind of want to do it all. You want it all, but you can't quite get there. But the weddings is great. And I got to tell you, for students who want to do weddings and stuff, if you do it right, it is hard work, but you will appreciate it. You will have a sense of satisfaction like I've almost never had in any other type of a job. And you can do it on the weekends and run it that way out of your own home. Of course, things are going that way too. So those are
Right.
good. I
Right.
learned a lot from weddings, trust me. Then I went to industrial work where I was doing the foundry. I graduated from the foundry and a few other things into the photo department. So I was in heaven, movie cameras and film and dark room and all this stuff. It was still film, doing aerospace, and I traveled. I work around flying machines. I actually know famous people, know a few astronauts and stuff like that. Don't know who they are because there are a lot of them. Stuff like that. So you meet a lot of people in the industry that you wouldn't think. And so
Right.
I did a lot of work, and some of my most beautiful work will never be seen because it's owned by the government. I hated that. I could never show it to them, but it's gone. So anyway, that's the way it goes.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. So when I was at Chrysler for 14 years, and I have like 10 pictures because they owned everything that I shot. And that was, that's in the contract. I mean, that's fine, but
Right.
those 10 or 12 pictures that I have, I really shouldn't even have those.
Right, there you go.
You
They don't care too much.
No,
It's
they
all
don't care now, but contract's a contract, and I had to turn everything over to them. All the negatives, all the prints, all the contact sheets, everything. They have everything.
Yeah. Well,
So,
when you get a big contract, even as a contractor, if they say we want to own all rights, look at what they offer to pay. And you go, okay.
Right.
I do. Yeah. Okay. No problem. You can have it.
Right.
So there you go. After that, I still had some more hunger. I traveled for them and stuff like that all over the country, Utah, West, even DC, and stuff like that. But then we did such a good job that they had massive layoffs at his company. And lo and behold, I still work for him now as a contractor, making about the same money, doing a lot less work for him. And that's when I decided to go out on my own. And I didn't do weddings too often until you get an executive that says, I'd like to do my daughter's wedding. And of course you do, if you want to keep your contracts and stuff like that.
Sure. Right.
Which was good. And I enjoyed that. So I started my own business in industrial corporate, which was advertising, corporate, annual reports, things like that. But being in Detroit with the auto industry in my time, not a pretty place. Oily, greasy, smoke, fire. I dragged my equipment through. Bob knows working for Chrysler what it was like in those days, oil, soap, dirt floors. Now you go into these places and they're beautiful technology.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Gorgeous stuff. So it's quite a bit different. So I came through that nastiness.
Yeah. I used to have to, then when I got home, get the Windex or soap and water or whatever and clean all of my extension cords for running to all of my lights and all my power packs and everything like that. I used to have to wipe those things down at least once a week because they would just get so filthy from being in all the factories and things that I was in shooting equipment, it was,
but it is
not like it is today. The factories are beautiful today.
Oh, just gorgeous today. So there you go. I should have picked, like luxury resorts to do, but I wasn't thinking clearly or whatever. So there you go.
Well, it's where we live, and it's the predominant industry is anything related to the automobile.
They had me photograph everything. I got the Mr. Good. Oh, here's a good story. I got Mr. Goodrich. Well, first of all, I got a phone call from an art director that I've been calling for 15 years until I finally gave up on it. One day the phone rings and it's her. She goes, "We're looking for someone who can really improve Steve Geige's work." Okay, so she gave me a challenge. I also got Mr. Goodrich. And they said, "We're coming to you specifically because we're tired of this photography. So we want something exciting." So the first thing it said to me was, "I'll do that." And I had to hold back up. I said multiple exposures because people weren't doing it. My entire time of doing Mr. Goodrich, everything I did for them was in fact a multiple exposure. They ate it up. They loved it. They kept me for years. I got better at it. And it was just a technique that other people didn't use. So if students pick a technique they're good at and use it, you'll get known for that, and it'll take the place. Yeah. So.
Right. Yeah, I got known for using my tilt shift lens in the airplane and getting a better perspective on my aerial photography was one of the things I was noted for.
Oh, there you go. Now, who'd ever thought?
I thought, aiming the camera down, well, I can level the camera out and use the tilt shift lens and get a better perspective looking at the ground instead of those steep oblique angles to the ground. And I kind of got started known for that my aerial shots had a nicer look to them. They didn't know what it was, but they had a nicer look to them.
And that's the way photographers are. They're problem solvers. Instead of working hard, you found a way to make it work for you. So who'd ever thought an architectural lens would be used in an airplane? So there you go. So that's the way students should think. What can be?
Right. Yeah, and that's a really good point, Rob. We as a photographer, you become a problem solver.
Absolutely.
And I've told the story before that I had to photograph baked potatoes for a restaurant. It was a restaurant chain, and they were putting these baked potatoes up in the above the cash register, behind the people at airports. At airports, it was the Chicago hot dog people.
There you go.
Yeah, big airport food vendor. And I remember being in the bathroom getting ready to start the shoot over at the president of Chicago Hot Dogs house, this, gorgeous multi-million-dollar house, and we're going to do all the photography in the kitchen, because there was just 500 square feet or 800 square foot kitchen, you know, was huge.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I remember looking in the mirror going, oh my God, what did I get myself into?
Yeah, yeah, you do get scared, you do, but you got to come through. And your job was to make people hungry when they looked at that picture.
Yeah, yeah. So just, you know, you got back to the basics. You know, what f-stop do I really need? How much light do I really have? You know, I know I'm shooting this film. I know I've got this lens to work with. So you just get back to the basics and solve the problem. And the pictures came out wonderful, and they were very happy. And I made a boatload of money in 2 days. I mean, just
And,
almost obscene amount of money for 2 days worth of work. You know,
and,
but
and the word you used was get back to the basics. That's incredibly important. I tell my students in 180 and other classes that these top car shooters like Andre LaRoche started the motion stuff. He's doing what we learn in 180. That's all he's doing. He just perfected it, take that motion lesson, and he employed it. And boy, he's at the top of the food chain. So it's there. It's what you want to do.
Yeah, it's often refining the basics to a high level.
Right. Students ask me about, you know, is it competitive, is there work out there, and so on. Well, it's the same old story. Okay. Back in my day when we had rock and roll and stuff, by the way, I saw Led Zeppelin for $4. Can't beat that. You see these guys, and it's improved so much from there. We had so many, just a few rock and roll bands, and that was it for 20 years. Now they come and go every 2 years, and there's a million. Well, same thing with photography, but it's there. If you look, because we just had print media, now you've got computers, TV, telephones, you've got need for photography everywhere. And by golly,
Everywhere.
look at your drugstore. When you go in there and you line up for your medication, you got all the magazines, they're still there. It's just full of ink and photographs. So yes, there is a lot of good stuff out there. Do you have to work for it? Yes, you do. You have to go for it. You have to pound the pavement. You have to do it, but you will get it. You will get it.
I just got a really nice text and some photos from a former student who went to the regional national ice racing championships for motorcycles this winter.
Oh, yeah.
She was the only photographer there because it was so cold. And she got picked up by the American Motorcycle Association. And now they're driving her. And now she's writing the stories.
Excellent.
And she's going to all these tracks and photographing motocross. And she's gone from taking a couple of pictures to shooting like mad every weekend. And she is thrilled to death. She can't believe this finally happened to her.
Right.
But she's the one that stuck it out and went when nobody else was. And of course, she got great pictures with the ice flying off the back of the motorcycles in the corners, and all the pretty colored, brightly colored outfits against the snow, you know, and she got some wonderful pictures. And then she got a cover of the magazine, and
there you
just
go.
takes off from there.
And you go with it. You got to keep.
And that just happened like 4 or 5 weeks ago.
That's excellent. That's
so she had the pictures, and they were running the story, and they were like, we need pictures of the ice racing nationals. And they were like, she goes, well, I got tons of pictures.
There you go. And that's all right there.
Yeah. So she called me and how do I negotiate a price? So, so we had a long conversation.
I'll mention that in a few minutes too. But one of the words you were talking yesterday, and what is it? Now, there's a word here. It's called desire. My coach in football told me the same thing too. It's desire. And that's what it's about. So in photography, what kept me going? It's that burning desire that I can't let it go, that I want to see some more. I want to try this. I want to try that. And you have to settle down for this and that. And it's kind of weird. And then as I was doing this photography on my own, and I tell you, I spent many nights working 48 hours, no sleep, nonstop, hardly eating, just rush. So you got to do it when you're a little bit younger and stuff. But then it pays off, and it's really good. And then now I don't want to travel as much because it's not as glamorous as you think when it's a job, because they ship you in and ship you out, and that's it. And you got to do that. But I got into teaching. I didn't ask. Somebody.
I was going to ask you, how did you get into teaching? Because I don't know this story about you.
To this day, I've never asked to teach in my life. Everybody's come after me. I go, oh, I don't think so. But they pushed and squeezed and pulled. So I gave a few classes, and the next thing you know, well, here I am. Then I hear from these guys and these guys, and they ask me, I go, okay, so it turned into about 50-50 for quite a while, but I got to tell you, what a place to be. The industry part, bringing it to the education, and trust me, I take the education part and take it to the industry part too. They meld and blend so good. There's hardly a better place to be working and teaching with photography, because you're active both ways all the time, and
Right.
then you intermingle. So I'm grateful for that part. Okay, it's grateful. It's a different world, true. It's a totally different world. I call my wedding photography my soft stuff, and my industrial stuff my hard stuff, because that's a
Okay.
hard industry and stuff. And then I stop that, get cleaned up, and come around, and I'm around people in fluffy dresses and flowers and cakes and stuff. So it's a different look, but I've still got the same motion shots, the multiple exposure shots, the challenges of handling people. It's really
Sure.
just shifting a little bit different mode. But you are the guy they look to be in charge most of the time. So.
Right. So how long, as of now, 2021, so finishing up this semester, how many years have you been teaching at the college level?
I think 32. 32.
Really?
Yeah, I might have started a little bit earlier. See, someone at a college saw my advertisement. Then they said, wow, we didn't know we had these guys in Michigan. They invited me in to give a business talk. And of course, I did business and copyright, which everybody knows I'm up on the business and copyright. They asked me to give another one. Then they asked me to teach, and they had to push and pull. I did it. Next thing you know, they got their hooks into you, and there you are teaching. And that's how that happened. But
it's funny you say that. I'm doing a copyright lecture today. So.
That's right, and that's what it is. And so one of the things is Mr. Rentz is going to do copyright. You want to pay attention, because that's the heart of our business. It is such, and as Mr. Rentz was saying, Chrysler owned all those pictures because I believe at the time you were under the guise of an employee. If you're an employee for Chrysler, they own it. And if you're an employee for anybody, under the guise or the guise of employment, you agree to that they own it. So when you're a contractor, you own them, then you can negotiate. Now, negotiations could be a principle of, I want to do this or that, but if the images are no good to you, in other words, can I resell them and lease them to other people generically, then don't worry about it. But if you can, then you want to worry about it. But you can't sell Chrysler car pictures. They own all the rights to that. So you let that stuff go. But certain things you want to keep copyrighted to yourself, but it's a business decision that you make.
It is a business decision, right. Yeah, I remember getting into a difficult conversation with a client and getting fired over the fact that I would not give up my copyright.
Right.
And then I got a call like 2 years later from the same company, and I said, well, what's up? And they're like, well, the other photographer kind of ran out of talent, so we kind of need you.
That's funny. That happened to me a couple of times too. They go, we're going to use this guy. Okay. That night at midnight, they called me. It's funny how stuff happens.
So always part ways amicably, I say. Don't just say, okay, fine. If that's what you want to do, and not hire me anymore, hey, that's fine. It was glad we had a relationship we had, and we had some good stuff, and appreciate your work, and appreciate working for you, and see you around the block sometime.
That's right. Don't burn your bridges. Don't burn.
And lo and behold, 2 years later, that was that whole American Metal Roofs company that I ended up working for. And I ended up working for them after they hired me back again for about 5 years, and probably, I don't know, 15, 20, probably about $20,000 a year for the next 5 years from that one company. That was a great gig. If you go on their website, almost all the photos and videos on there are still all things that I did years ago.
Very good. Well, speaking of having a problem with copyright, I had a problem with copyright with a big agency whom I suspected but didn't know, because a new person moved in and didn't like the fact that we were doing good, or some other things going on too. The art directors loved me. I was doing great. I was doing great for them, shooting all Buick, Oldsmobile, Cadillac, and everything. And what I didn't know was this company, in order to have certain contracts for a certain corporation, they had to give them the work. So without asking me, they were giving my work away as their,
Oh,
and I didn't know this. I had suspicions. I didn't know. And then I sent an advertisement with those images to the world's largest corporation, and these agencies saw it and they freaked out because it was saying, "This isn't yours, this is mine." So I got a call that night, and they said, it was a female art, woman art owner, "You betrayed me." And she meant it. I go, "What are you talking about? You use our image." Oh, no, sorry, my image. And then all heck broke loose. Now, I tried to talk through this here and explain it to him because I had my contracts right. Well, as it turns out, copyright is a federal case. And where's my federal court? On Fifth Avenue up there in Flint, right there on Fifth Street and Saginaw, wherever it is I get off right there. That's where I went. This judge knew what he was talking about. And thank goodness, because I was up against supposedly America's #1 copyright lawyer. Well, after I read his brief, go, "Well, if he's #1, I ain't got no sweat on this one, pal." He didn't know what he's doing, but I knew my stuff. My paperwork was correct. And I tell these students in the classes what you can do. So one day, because this was what they were going to do was try to wear me down. I said, "That's it."
right. Well, that's what they try to do to me on my copyright suit, was wear you down.
And I went to him, I said, "Here's the deal. You're either going to cough up today." And this was on a Saturday. I called him. I said, "You're going to cough up today, or Monday, I'm going to call every one of your clients that I've worked for, and I'm going to subpoena them," which means we drag every one of them through court, which means you will lose them as a client. What do you want to do? And they wrote a check real quickly, and that's how you got to play. Of course, that was the end of my contract. I knew it was anyway.
Yeah, you
It
never
was
worked
too
for them
bad.
again. Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's too bad because they had it good, and I watched their work
right.
afterwards. It took a tumble. It took a tumble.
Yeah, I mean, the company that I sued, you know, I really didn't, you know, they had given me a lot of work over the years, but I couldn't sit around while they took $25,000 from me. So I had to sue them. I never worked for them again. And that's sad because I had a good working relationship with them until this one guy,
Right.
you know, took a copy machine and copied all those photos. So, you know, that's unfortunate, but you can't let that sit. That was too much money to let sit.
Right. No, you can't. If they walk over you once, they'll walk over you again.
Right.
And for every bad client.
And then they'll walk over the next guy too.
Yeah, there's 10 good ones. There's 10 good ones. So my
Right.
advice would be for students, understand copyright very well. It is your property unless you can negotiate and all that good stuff. In the place I get most of my stuff, I was president and all that other stuff, has worked with a firm for years, was ASMP, American Society of Media Photographers. That's the place to start. They have different categories to join, but you aren't going to get any better information on copyright because this was started by Ansel Adams, Margaret Bork White, all these people years ago going against Time Magazine and Life Magazine for using their work when they didn't have permission. And guess what? We sue those people time every day. It's just a standard operating procedure. They don't make a big deal about it. It's unbelievable
Right.
how it operates, but that's it. So students better know what they're doing. As far as weddings and stuff, not a big deal, but corporate stuff, usable stuff, scenics, your private stuff, yeah, that's
Right.
all. Don't let it go. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's next in the career here? You had some big news for me the other day. So.
Oh, well, after all that stuff, I still horse around, but what I did was traveling's a bit tough, so I stay in my little studio here, and I want to do small studio products. So I tell my students, this is just absolutely beautiful. Only cost $1.79 because the rubber case, but it's beautiful to a photographer. So we look at strawberries and bugs and spiders differently than everybody else does. They're beautiful, okay? And that's what we do. But you get to a point where in there, it's time for retirement. And that's where I'm headed, is to some retirement here. It's been a good long haul. I've certainly enjoyed every bit of it, but there comes a time when it's due, and it's hard to let go. There's no doubt about it. It's hard to let go. And I'm really not letting go, as Mr. Rentzer said. I'm just kind of taking it easy here a little bit and taking a breather, but my fingers are in there. They're not gonna, they're not gonna leave photography. You guys are gonna look back, and Mr. V had a camera look this ridiculous, even though that's it right there. So I don't know what your cameras are gonna look like, but that's the way that goes. But it's still good, and it is what you guys make of it. That's what it is. And there's stuff there for us.
Yeah, it is. It's been a lifelong journey for me, and it sounds like it's been the same thing for you. You've gone a number of different twists and turns with the camera.
It's not a job, it's an adventure.
Yeah, it really has been for me. I met a lot of famous people and photographed them, and I mean, that was all fun and great and whatever. It's just, it's another job. You got to do your job well.
Oh yeah.
So that was kind of fun. But yeah, we've had similar pathways in the commercial field where there's still a fair amount of work out there.
Oh yeah, I was working in a desert, Mojave Desert, Mojave Airport, and with the people that just a private company just broke this space and went out and made 2 flights and came back. Those are the people I worked with right there. And they had a big secret, everything secret, this big room that I got into, and they're building this wing that's 50 feet tall in the desert. It's a wing. What I found out was it's not a wing, it's a sail for a sailboat, and it did win the America's Cup. And then when they won, all heck broke loose and they had an argument, but they made a sail for boat in the middle of the desert. So this is the type of stuff I see. Also, that company's been sold. I think it's Richard Branson bought it.
Yeah.
Deposits, and he's taken this and running. And so I work with those guys, and I've talked to him. He's just like anybody else. He puts on the boots, and you wouldn't know. He's got millions of dollars. He horses around like everybody else, and they all do. What they are is guys with big toys. That's all it is.
Yeah, that's all it is.
The same guys as you and me. It's all it is. So
yeah, that's what I found with photographing CEOs and political leaders and stuff like that. They're all just, everybody's the same, really, and they understand that I'm just trying to make them look good.
That's right. Yeah, if they understand it, and they'll work with you, they'll bend
and they'll work with you, right?
Yeah,
right.
They do. They understand your job. So
right.
That's good. So that's it. So I've done a lot of fun stuff. I've for the automotive, I've shot candy, foods, furs, sailboats, beach stuff in the middle of winter on Lake Michigan in November, trying to do a summer beach thing. We canceled that. I did finish it. Stuff like that. So it's pretty exciting. Whatever avenue you take. Now, to let this go kind of easy here, I used to take the world's top photographers, Pete Turner, Eric Miola, all these guys that we know through our club, through ASMP organization. Sunday night, we take them to dinner, then take them to the airport and bye-bye. So Sunday night, we got them to ourselves. Now we ask them the questions. And here's a question you probably would ask, and here's the answer. We would always look up to these guys and say, what is it that you could tell us as either seasoned professionals or wannabes? What's the one thing you would recommend for us? And we always thought they were going to say Kodachrome or Nikon lenses or this and that, and they'd all take it seriously. And they'd stop and think for a second, and they'd look up, and every one of them said, you got to do what you want to do. You got to do it your way. Don't do what everybody else is doing. We already got those guys.
Right. Right.
So if you feel it and you want it, it's going to be better because it comes from you. Don't try to do what that person wants. You're not going to get there. Do it your way. That answer right there.
Right. Yeah. I had kind of a turning point in my career when I was doing a lot of equipment and machines and factories. I started putting a camera in the machine with a wide lens on it and taking the pictures that way, either with a remote trigger or put it on a timer. And I just thought that would be a really cool thing to do. Nobody else was doing something like that, where the camera was actually inside the machine or going down the assembly line. And man, oh man, that got me so much work. Everybody just loved that point of view shot. And
which is also why we insure our equipment too.
Yes.
So yeah, you asked me when did I pick up a camera. You didn't ask me when did I drop a camera. It's a very expensive sound, and you don't want to do it. Yeah,
I've dropped two in my life. I think that's pretty good for how many years I've held a camera in my hand. I've only ever dropped 2.
That's pretty good. You betcha.
And one was in front of a big wedding party.
Oh yeah. Oh, the other thing is on weddings. Here's the thing about weddings, what people don't understand. It's one shot and that's all you get at it, and you can't blow it. You need a minimum of 2 of everything, 2 strokes, 2 flags.
Yeah, I just picked that camera up, set it down next to my camera case, reach in my case, grabbed another camera out, which was all set for the same settings, same film, everything. Put that on, grabbed it, kept shooting. I mean,
So
I
you see
hardly
how
broke stride, you know.
that, yep. So see
But-
how it saved you right there. So
Yeah.
those are the
That's what
important.
my brother-in-law used to say. You met Jim. He
Yep.
helped. He came to our first help portrait
Yes, he
event. Jim Wildermuth, my wife's brother. He said, "You're not a pro until you have two of everything."
Oh, there you go. That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
So-
gotta have a backup.
Yep,
Gotta have a
that's it.
backup.
And today, what I'm doing is I'm teaching students, if students want to look at my website, it's VanMarter. That's not an ego thing. It's like all the other good names are taken, folks. I couldn't find anything I wanted. So I want VanMarter. I don't think that's out there. So that's what I've got. It's easy to remember and check my website. But what I do is I tell my students, I just gave a little demo here the other day. I used a $15 desk lamp and a little itty bitty flashlight. We did a whole vase painting with light. And so you'll see this probably somewhere on my website, maybe not some other things. And I tell my students little things like, and this is what I want to do. I'll go up to a motorcycle if I have to, but I like to keep everything smaller for my work. Just paint this with the flashlight because the way it's built is beautiful. So look at
Yeah.
things differently. Everything is fodder for photographers.
Yeah, everything has cool shapes and angles to it, and if you light it in an interesting way, you can make something look really fun and interesting. So, anyway, well, it's been fun. I should probably get back to
Thank
work
you. I
here.
appreciate it.
I have a couple
Hope it's
students that
been
have come in, so I got to check and make sure they haven't burned the place down. You know, things okay.
Okay.
So, any other last words of wisdom? I do like that. Do the photography your way. Develop your own style or whatever you want to call that.
Yeah, pick a technique, and today you have so much more. It used to be that when I got a camera like this, you would get just a piece of paper, you unfold, and everything you need to know is right there. Now I've got 500 pages. Well, you can do panoramics, you can do motion, you can do multiple exposures, you can do everything. And Photoshop is now truly half of all your work, which is more control for photographers. You have
Right.
more control of your work, you can improve it. So when you shoot it correctly, you're only halfway. Now that you do that, so if you were to pick a thing that you want to do, like I'm going to specialize in panoramas, and you set yourself up, you can make a career out of doing panoramas. If you want to specialize in doing motion photography, you can make a career out of doing motion photography and in the studio or location. You need to pick something you're comfortable with, be the best at it, and do that, and you'll be good. You'll be good.
Yeah, and continue to improve and refine it.
Yeah.
You know, all the time. Yeah.
That's great. So that would
Cool.
be it. Keep going.
Well, we'll have to get out and shoot sometime soon. Go for a walk or something now that the weather's breaking.
Yeah.
So, but I'll be teaching Monday and Wednesday in the summer. So, and you won't.
Okay.
So I won't see you up here. So
Okay, I might drop by or something like that. You never know. Okay.
that'd be
in,
fun.
surprise somebody. Okay. All right.
Anyway, appreciate it, Rob.
Thanks,
and,
Mr. Metzler.
I'll talk to you soon.